am reviewing Army of the Dead, which is directed by the one and only Zack Snyder. It came out in select theaters this week. It's supposed to debut on Netflix next week. He also produced this film along with his wife. He wrote the screenplay for this movie, and he was his own DP, his own director of photography. Snyder shot this whole thing himself. And we have an ensemble cast here. We have Dave Bautista, we have Ella Purnell, we have Hiroyuki Sanada, Ana de la Reguera, we have Matthias Schweiger, I hope I'm not butchering his name, although I probably am, Omari Hardwick. The story here is that there is a mysterious and deadly zombie or undead outbreak in Las Vegas that consumes the entire city, and these are not your typical zombies. The city is walled off and quarantined by the government, and then one day the government decides, you know what, we're gonna drop a nuclear bomb. So they schedule a nuclear bomb to be dropped on the city that's supposed to wipe out all of the zombies forever. Dave Bautista is recruited by a mysterious man to go back into Vegas before they drop the bomb and to find a vault that has $200 million, and they can take a cut for themselves. Dave Bautista recruits a team, some of which are former soldiers like himself, all of them with individual skills that they're gonna need for the job, and they decide to go into Vegas to attempt to pull off the biggest heist and the weirdest heist and the wildest heist that anybody's ever tried to attempt. I was so excited to see this goddamn movie. As soon as I found out that it was playing in a theater near me, I could not wait. I immediately bought a ticket, reserved a spot. There's no way I was gonna miss this in theater. You can definitely wait and see this on Netflix, and it's probably still gonna be just as good on Netflix, but man, it feels good to be back at the movie theater. As you guys know, I'm a pretty huge Zack Snyder fan. Zack Snyder is one of my favorite directors working today. And I gotta say, this man is growing too powerful for his own good. Because in back-to-back movies, just a couple of months apart, this man has dropped classics. I'm talking all-time classics, and he's done it seemingly without breaking a sweat. Snyder has always been a director that loves to play in his own sandbox a little bit. He's a director that likes to create the world and then likes to like build around that and continue to build that and add characters and stuff like that. It's a zombie movie and it's a zombie genre, and we all know that those are kind of played out in terms of everything that we've seen. We've seen so many zombie movies, we've seen so many cliches and tropes, it's hard to do anything new with it, right? Well, Snyder has taken some of those cliches and those tropes and he's added an enriched new mythology to it that is so much more interesting and makes you want to know more. It makes you want to see more of this world. Scene by scene in this movie, I had questions. I had interesting questions related to the world and the zombies themselves and the hierarchy of power within the zombie kingdom and all of that stuff. And Snyder is able to answer some of those questions while also teasing a lot for the future, and the way he does it in such an organic and awesome and cool and badass way. It's one of my favorite things about this film. Obviously, Zack Snyder is one of the best visual directors working today. He's always been praised for his visual style. He's one of those directors similar to Guy Ritchie, where you watch one of his movies and 5 minutes in, you're like, I'm watching a Zack Snyder movie. I'm not sure if this is because Netflix requires their filmmakers to shoot on digital, or maybe this was just a stylistic choice by Snyder, but Snyder decides to use some big red Monstro Canon digital dream lenses to shoot this movie. And what this does is it creates such an interesting effect with the foreground and the background. There's such a shallow depth of perception and shallow depth of field with the visuals in this movie. It makes everything pop and everything seem more vibrant and more resonant. This leads to some scenes feeling a little bit more blurry, but then all of a sudden when it decides to focus up and focus on what it needs to focus on, it's one of the more organic looking feels to any Snyder film that he's ever shot that I think I've ever seen. And I love how this movie looks. From a cinematography standpoint, it's absolute eggs on its head. Then you get into the ensemble itself, and it's a true ensemble in the full sense of the word. Snyder does such a great job at bringing all these different characters together. And even though they all might not have the development that you might like, they all at least have something about them that makes you invested in their survival, you know? And they all have their fair share of badass moments in this movie. Dave Bautista does have the bulk of the emotional arc in this movie. There's this relationship thing that he's going through with his daughter in the film, his daughter played by Ella Purnell. You gotta give it to Dave Bautista, because for years he's kind of just been looked at as, oh, that's Drax, and Drax is funny, and ha ha ha, but no, Dave Bautista actually surprisingly has more range than you would think of for an actor like him. This movie has one of the best opening title sequences I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it definitely rivals Snyder's work with Watchmen. You gotta see it for yourself to know what I'm talking about, but holy shit, that was amazing. You know what else is amazing? The action sequences in the movie, as you would expect. There are so many memorable and well put together, well filmed and gorgeous looking action set pieces in this movie, almost too many to name, especially when it really gets going somewhere in the middle of the second act with the amazing character designs for the zombies and the fact that, again, these are not your typical zombies. These zombies have a different hierarchy. They have a certain intelligence to them. I love the way Snyder was able to combine this into some awesome, amazing, badass zombie action. It's some of the best that you've ever seen in a zombie movie. There's plenty of blood, plenty of gore, guts, intestines, a whole bunch of things just getting blown up, ripped apart, torn. Just it's one of those type of movies. Just preparing you for that right now. I would venture to say that it's a zombie masterpiece, and I don't use that word lightly. Now, does the movie have problems? Of course the movie has problems. Zack Snyder himself is not infallible, and his movies usually have some issues. There are some dead spots scattered throughout the first act, and what I mean by dead spots is I mean that there are definitely some slower moments where it feels a little bit like padding to the runtime. It feels like the story is not really progressing at a good speed. It feels like it's moving in quicksand at some parts, and I think this definitely messes with the pacing of the film, the fact that there is a little bit too much crammed into these moments. So I call them dead spots because there are some parts throughout the first act of the movie where it feels like not much is happening and the movie feels, no pun intended, like The Undead. And some of the humor is hit or miss, and there is an interesting thing that happens in the beginning as it relates to these characters being recruited that I was kind of curious why this wasn't brought up later. It's a little thing, but it's just one of those things where I had a question and I was just like, oh, so this is not gonna get brought up. Okay. Sure, do your thing, I guess. There is also a fan thing that I wanted a little bit more of that I didn't get enough of, and it has no bearing on the movie. It's just me being a whiny bitch. Pay no attention. This is not a critique. It's just, I wanted a little bit more, you know? There's a great ensemble feel to it, tremendous in terms of how it looks and the world that is created. I need more of this world. I need more of Zack Snyder making these type of movies right now. Army of the Dead was fucking badass. It absolutely is gonna get the highest my channel has to offer, Superman Prime. So guys, tell me, what is your favorite zombie movie of all time, and how excited are you to see Army of the Dead? Give me your thoughts, give me your feedback in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.